You're listening to 15 Minutes, where we feature community leaders sharing what the rest of us should know but likely don't.
Hi, listeners. I'm Bela Musitz, host for this episode of the 15 Minutes Share Your Voice podcast, where we talk with top-notch law firms and attorneys about what it takes to grow a successful law practice. This episode is brought to you by Gladiator Law Marketing. They deliver tailor-made services to help your law firm accomplish its objectives and maximize your growth potential. To have a successful marketing campaign and to make sure you're getting the best return on investment, your firm needs to have a better website and better content management. Gladiator Law Marketing uses artificial intelligence, machine learning, and decades of experience to outperform the competition. To learn more, go to gladiatorlawmarketing.com, where you can schedule a free marketing consultation. Today's guest on the podcast is attorney and certified mediator, Natalie Gregg. The law office of Natalie Gregg is exclusively focused on the practice of family law. Their mission is to provide North Texas families with the support, guidance, and advocacy that they need to overcome the complex, emotional, and financial issues associated with family law. Welcome to the podcast, Natalie.
Hello, and thank you for having me.
Sure. So tell us a little bit more about your law office.
Well, the genesis of it started the firm in the middle of the last recession, so 2008, not predicting that we're having another one or anything. And I just had a baby, had my second child, and I wanted to do something that a business model that I thought would be more flexible to a family, which ironically in law school, I said the two kinds of law I do not ever want to do are criminal and family. And guess what I'm doing now?
Yeah. Now, did you work at another law firm before you started your own?
Yes. So right out of the gates, I worked at a medical malpractice defense firm, which sounds as boring as it is. It was incredibly routine. It was the end of tort reform in Texas. So we were literally receiving about 100 lawsuits a day and responding to those, working crazy hours, flying all over teeny tiny towns in Texas, which love traveling, don't love to be in teeny tiny towns. So that was my first job. And I didn't have kids at the time, so I had some free time and I wanted to kind of give back. So I worked at the basement of a church, giving out law advice to families in Spanish and English, low income, for, family law cases. And I was giving, what I learned in law school. So very rote, basic advice. And I really loved it. I loved how the people had their stories were so personal, and I felt like I could make an impact and help them in such a way that I wasn't helping these, big pharma, big hospitals and doctors who were committing negligence. It fulfilled me in a way that did not.
Yeah, excellent. So what sort of inspired you to say, okay, I'm going to hang my own shingle and go out on my own?
So I worked for 4.5 years at a privately funded legal clinic that basically did family law. So I went to trial almost once a week, whereas that's very uncommon for a young lawyer. So my trial ad skills were becoming very honed, and I loved it. And it was my jam. It was just what I felt like I was meant to do. But guess what? When you have two little kids, or one child, one on the way, the salary that I was making was more of a donation than a salary. Yeah. So I said, why not try something on my own? And I kind of dared myself. I said, if I don't make a certain threshold, then I'll go work for one of the bigger family law firms in a more traditional sense.
Yeah. So in that kind of first, week or two that you're having your own law practice, I mean, you show up at the office, and then what do you do?
So what's crazy is you don't have an office because offices cost money. And when
Yeah.
you my only startup cost was a really cheap laptop at Costco. So I literally went, bought a laptop because I'm a very mobile person. I don't love to sit at a desk all day. That was another thing. So I called a bunch of friends in the neighborhood. I lived in like East Dallas, Lakewood area. And I said, guys, does anyone have any space where I could meet clients? Because I sure as heck was not going to meet them at my house.
Yeah.
So one of my girlfriends said, oh, I have a space that's right above Papa John's in the village over by the Lakewood Country Club. And I said, sure. How much? Free? Okay, I'll be there. So I was meeting clients up there, and it was set up as an actual office. It had a desk, but it was a bit unconventional. Let's just say that you could smell wafts of pizza dough. And that continued for about 5 months until I had what I felt was enough to go lease a space. And then it grew from leasing one space to 5 to 10 to then building my own law firm up here in Collin County. So,
Wow. What a great story. What a great story. So in the beginning there, I'm always curious about how do you find those, your first 10 clients?
that's a great question. So it's not organic. It's not, especially because this was like prior to really internet traffic, like where you just call Google and say, here's a campaign, I need this, and let's go. So I was just creating tons of content. Like I would get up and I would write content for about 10 hours. So when I wasn't with clients, I was creating content or I was with my children, or doing both.
Yeah.
So that was really and then I had friends. I had a lot of friends, lots of networking, who worked in the bigger firms. And I went to SMU Law School, so kind of a big network of people. And so when someone would say, "Hey, what are you doing now?" I'd say, "Oh, I'm on my own." And so it was attractive to them because their retainers were enormous, and I could take smaller ones because I had no overhead essentially
Right.
at the
Right.
beginning. And so that's really how I started with the first 10. But the first trial I had, friend of a friend, and it was out of county, didn't know the judge, but the facts were pretty egregious. I felt like we could totally win it, slam dunk. And I'm kind of one of those like, I'll prove you. So in Hunt County, I was there for a week, sending my intern from SMU Law to come and pick up milk to bring to my child. So that was an interesting trial. We won it. It was great. My client was very happy, and then that kind of just snowballed into kind of what we are today.
Yeah. Yeah. So you mentioned early on in our discussion here that when you created your firm, you wanted to make it more family friendly.
Yes.
How has that transpired?
So I feel like that's often given lip service. We're a family-friendly law firm or family-friendly corporation. We like kids, keep breeding, so you have to keep working here. But what my thought was, flexibility, and this is before COVID. So this is when we used to have seat checks at 8 a.m. Like if you're not in your seat, what's going on? You're going to get written up. In my first job, my male boss called me from the OB-GYN's office and said, "You've been there for 30 minutes. What's wrong? You better get back." So I said, I'm gonna rectify all the things that I didn't like about that model, but also keep the profitability, which is kind of difficult to do. So make sure that I was off when my kids were off. That if someone, admin or staff or attorney said, "I can't cover this hearing because it's my child's like recital,"
Right.
it's like it's never going to happen again. To say, okay, well, let's move heaven and earth to just move it, just like call them and say you have a scheduling conflict, just like you would with the hearing. So that's what we do. We live our lives, we achieve excellence, which is hard. It's a balance. But it's important to get what you want long term, so that you're happy and you want to stay, and you can have longevity.
Yeah, very nice. Striking that balance in life in general is always a challenge. And it sounds like, one of the nice things you've done is that you've tried to bring a balance element into people's work lives as well, which can be very demanding, particularly, in the family law segment where there's a lot of emotion, there's a lot of stuff going on with your clients that, they're probably very anxious to get going. And so balancing all these things
sure.
is a real challenge. Yeah.
Well, so in the last 4 months, I've had 3 jury trials, and one was out of town for an entire week. And I have 2 kids; they're teenagers. I'm a single mom, so just that exercise for me was a little bit challenging because I'd never been like, "Peace out, guys, gotta go." But we had family friends who came in and stayed with the kids, but it added this element of just worrying about stuff at the home front because I wasn't there. But I was working 16-hour days because we'd get up, talk about the case, go to the case, stay at trial, and then prep for the next day. So there wasn't any extra time there. But once again, we won. We had a great time doing it, and our client was super happy. My kids, they missed me, but not too much. So it all worked out.
Right. Right. So let's talk a little bit more of the types of cases that the law firm does. Can you just kind of talk a little bit about the various different types of family law matters you guys deal with?
Sure. So we are known to be a complex litigation firm. What does that mean? That means that if it's high net worth, child custody issues that involve, complexities such as mental illness, addiction issues, just family systems, major deficits. And you can imagine what that all entails. So no one comes, to our firm saying, "I just want a simple, non-contested divorce." That's not how my business model was set up. Initially, yes, it was the bread and butter. But now I take cases that are, on paper, really difficult to win, very tough facts, hard personalities, sometimes things where we need to have 5 experts, to tell us, please help us guide this family to make good choices for the best interest of these children.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. That sounds like it can be very rewarding work because you're really very impactful on people's lives.
Yeah, no pressure, right?
Yeah.
But the other part of it too is, creative ways of meeting people's goals. So I am trained as a collaborative attorney, which is the opposite of litigation. And so a lot of times I'll approach something that is complex and say, do we really need to spend 6 figures going all the way to this place on the decision tree that might end us up either the same net or potentially worse? Because I have a magic 8 ball in my office. And some people are like, what would the judge do? I'm like, why don't you shake it? They don't like that answer, but that sometimes is true. In every jurisdiction, it's different.
Yeah. Yeah. What sort of percentage of clients that you deal with actually end up going to a trial?
My answer would have been different about 3 years ago. So during COVID, we didn't go. We went to trial maybe once or twice that whole year of 2020. In this year, I have gone to trial about 25 times.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm. Just me personally. So I have 4 attorneys at the office. So that's just me going to trial. But it's different all the time. And I don't know if it's the more advanced I get in my career, is it that people are seeking me out because they need, someone who it's just not going to resolve it at mediation or alternate dispute resolution.
Yeah. So how do you, when you're advising a client, sort of say, yeah, we should take this to trial, or no, we should really try to figure out how to get some different type of resolution to this matter?
So there are some cases I have where it's clear that there are some major liabilities on both sides. Also for privacy, for, yeah, I'm super blunt. So I'll just tell my client, hey, you can take this to trial. Trial is not court TV. It is not Matlock, the smoking gun, the linchpin where, oh, we caught them. It's a lot less sexy. And so I try to get them down to, here are the outcomes. Here's what could happen. Here's what I think will happen. Oh, and by the way, we just got a new judge here and we have no idea. And so we make all those risk assessments at the beginning, and then we continue to assess almost daily, according to what happens.
Yeah.
But I never want to take a case to trial just for sports. It's not worth it.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I could imagine that the trial is that to some degree, it's very unpredictable what the outcome will be.
Yes. And so when I told you I had jury trials, that's actually very uncommon. We're the last state in the United States that does juries for family law cases. And most of my friends have done 1 to 2 in their career. So for some reason, I've done 8, not to brag, but I've won all of them. But I don't take it to jury if I don't think it's going to win. That also there's a science behind picking the jurors, and there's a science on picking which issues are allowed to be heard by the jury versus the bench. That would be the judge.
So when you go to trial in Texas, are all of them jury trials, or some of them go to the judge?
Now, the majority of everyone's practice is bench trials. Jury is when I walk in the courtroom and the judge looks at my client and just shuts them down, I know there's a bias. Or if I notice that every time I start talking, my arguments are summarily dismissed. It could be personality. It could be, we don't know, but we just know that the result that's happening is not typical. And so then we look at our client and we say, here, look, you have a constitutional right to a jury. And they're usually very surprised. So it's not something that I just whip out as a catch-all. It's actually pretty special to do that. And so when I said I did 3 and 4 months, it was kind of like catching your breath, because a jury trial is you're with the client all day, you are on the whole time. You have to watch what you dress, how you act, what you do when you go to lunch, when you go to the restroom, how you walk. I mean, they just stare at you like kindergartners. And then when I've pulled them afterwards, you're allowed to go after sometimes and ask if they volunteer. What did we do right? What did we do wrong? And they'll actually comment on my outfits or how I talk too fast, or, I really liked when you did this, and, you seemed really sweet. And I'm like, oh, okay, interesting. So you get like a psychological kind of look into their brains.
Yeah. Yeah. That's interesting. I'm sure there's a whole science and study of those types of things.
Yes. I usually bring my whole team when we choose the jury. I bring about 5 or 6 people.
Yeah.
You get these big charts. Yeah. It's not like that show, where he has all these people virtually, and he does kind of an AI read on their brains. That's
right.
not there yet.
Yeah. So if I called up your firm and said, hey, I'm going through a difficult family matter, take me through that process. What questions would you ask me to sort of decide whether it's appropriate for us to, engage in engage, or best I should go someplace
consultation
else. Yeah,
sure.
Thank you.
So by the time someone has called our office, they have done several hours of research, if not months or weeks of research. It's not typically I'm ordering a pizza and hiring a divorce lawyer kind of deal. So a lot of times the gatekeeper at our firm is Kristen. She's I call her COO. To call her a receptionist would be such a disservice, because that's one of her tasks. But she handles all intake. So she knows each attorney's strengths and weaknesses, our rates. She'll listen. She's so compassionate. That's another thing is, when you're coming with a sad story, which there is no happy divorce. There's no happy modification when you're fighting about, kiddo custody. So she'll listen to the facts and then let them know, here's our process. We have consultations there. They're paid for consultations, but they are applied to your retainer. You can meet face-to-face, Zoom. I mean, we're very flexible now. You name how you want to meet with the attorney. Perfect. I still am pretty old school. I like to meet with people in person. And then, we vet out, can you afford it? Are we the right firm? Like a lot of people are like, I want you to fight. I want you to rip them apart. That is not my MO. I will do what is necessary to achieve success. And that can mean gloves on, gloves off. That can mean, going into a room and having a very respectful discussion with opposing counsel. It's a lot. It looks like a lot of different things. And so Kristen typically explains that to them. And she handles all the intake. And then once a client gets to a point of consultation with me, I answer all their questions during that point.
Very, very nice. So approximately how long does one of these cases take to resolve?
So quickest divorce in Texas is 61 days because there's a mandatory waiting period. It's called a cooling off period. The average divorce in county to county are different. In Collin County, where I practice, a majority is, approximately 6 to 9 months. My more complex cases can be up to 2 years. Dallas, I'm sorry, Dallas, I'm not giving you a shout out. There's a lot of red tape in Dallas, so I don't know if it's population, the amount of per capita, but our cases are taking 2 to 3 years just because the docket is hard to control.
Got it. So let's go way back. What sort of decided, what was your process in saying, okay, I'm going to go to law school. I want to be an attorney.
I wanted to be an attorney when I was 13, 14 years old. I grew up in a family of debate and friendly banter about pretty much every issue. My father's a physician. My mom, well-educated stay-at-home mom, but I have a little sister who works at the Louvre and she's an art historian. And then I have a brother who is general counsel for Buc-ee's. So we all kind of chose jobs that were our passion. But I was on the mock trial team in high school. Loved that. Loved the competition, loved the oration. And I also was a amateur actress, even continued that for payment during law school, just to supplement my income. So it's really fun to be in the courtroom. It is stressful, but I always know I wanted to be a lawyer.
Yeah. Oh, very nice. Well, it's great. And it sounds like you've followed your desire and you found your path. So that's wonderful. So if there's someone listening to this podcast who is, let's say, in law school and they're about to graduate in May, what sort of advice would you give them?
So I think the market is very different than when I got out. I would say, number one, explore different disciplines, different types of law, and see which fits best with you. And that means lifestyle, that means subject matter, because if you're transactional, you can be in an airplane 5 days a week. If you want to be a document contract review and just hang out, like this is my home office, and just hang out here all week, all month, that would be amazing for some people. That would make me sleep. So figure out what it is that fits with you and your personality, and then also your life goal long term. Because I talked to some younger attorneys or law students, and they say, I want to be an entertainment lawyer, I want to be a sports agent. And I said, it's a very, it's flashy and fun. I can't say that there are a lot of those people, right?
Right.
There's not a whole bar of those people. We have a whole family bar. So and if that is your passion, then go find someone and shadow them and find out everything there is to know about it, and try it out, because you're young. Your mistakes are okay when you're young. So just kind of
Yeah.
try things, and don't be afraid to fail.
Yeah. Good advice. Great advice. So, Natalie, where can listeners find out more about your law firm?
Sure. So our website is my name. So it's Natalie Gregg with 2Gs.com. And I have also a YouTube channel. I do videos, and I would love also, if anyone ever wants to directly contact me, you can also email me at natalie@nataliegregg.com. And I love to help people who have specific questions, who are, passionate about the law, or have, or just are in a bind and they feel like they can't find answers. I love to help people.
Yeah, excellent. Excellent. We'll make sure that information is in the show notes. So is there something that I have not asked you that you would like to share with our listeners?
I think I'd just like to share that personal experience, I think, really helps. So I have been divorced. I never in a million years expected to be. And so mid-practice, about 8 years ago, I went through a divorce, and that gave me such an insight into what my clients go through. And I call it the divorce crazy. It makes you anxious, and, life is hard, but I can walk them through that path. And so I have my mom advice, my attorney advice, and then here's my life experience of being divorced, and here's the do's and don'ts, and do as I say, not as I do.
Yeah, excellent. Well, that's a great way to wrap up this podcast. Natalie, thank you so much for being a great guest on the show. I really enjoyed our conversation.
Thank you. It was nice to meet you.
Thanks for listening to 15 Minutes. Be sure to subscribe, and we'll see you next time.